Yeah, listen, it's nice to be talking about a name that actually people like in the technology space. Stock is up some 30 odd percent this year. The S&P 500 tech index is down almost 10%. Spreads are 50 basis points tighter over the past 6 months. I actually think they're the original poster child for AI.
Yep.
They announced that they're going to be spending tens of billions of dollars building foundries, not data centers. And free cash went negative. They borrowed a lot. Stock sold off, bonds sold off. And lo and behold, they're in the midst of a pretty major turnaround. I think it's a plan others can potentially follow over the next couple of years.
But what makes Intel different? Why was it able to pull it off? And how will other companies who might want to follow in its footsteps be able to, follow this blueprint and also succeed?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of benefits of having big, powerful friends. So first, the government converted some of their grants into a 10% equity stake. That was over $8 billion. NVIDIA wrote them a $5 billion check, and SoftBank wrote a couple $billion check. On top of that, they sold assets. So they gained almost another $10 billion in asset sales for non-core businesses. So unlike others that have been doing nothing but been borrowing and adding leverage, this company has been on a deleveraging push.
All right.
And on top of that, their core business is starting to improve. So a better balance sheet, a top line that we're looking to see grow this year after falling 5 straight years in a row. So they are doing things that are different, and they're getting paid for it.
All right. So on the Bloomberg terminal, if you want to see who the shareholders are of any particular company, you just type in HDS for holders. Number 1 for Intel, BlackRock. Okay. Number 2, Vanguard. Got it. Number 3, United States of America. You don't see that every day. And number 4, NVIDIA. So those are the partners for Intel here. How about the free cash flow story? Because I was just looking back at the FA function, and as you said, negative free cash flow because they're spending so much on CapEx. You're a bond guy. You like free cash flow. How's that story developing?
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of free cash flow over the last few months to talk about, and we haven't been worried about it. Listen, Intel's been bleeding cash. It looks like they're probably going to be around flattish this year. That being said, though, with all these transactions that they've done, they've built a pretty big base of $37.5 billion of cash on the books. They're using some of it to buy back Apollo's stake in one of their JVs.
Is that a good move?
It's a phenomenal move.
Why?
We wrote yesterday that it was a sign of strength. What this company had to do is some creative financing. Like, we've seen with AI, we've seen some of these off-balance sheet SPVs to raise money so it doesn't lever the companies. Intel was sort of the first to do this, but they did it with a variety of foundries. They did a deal with Apollo, and they did a deal with Brookfield. What they're doing now is they're unwinding one of those, and it's showing that they now have the financial firepower to go into this build on their own. They don't need partners anymore. So they're using some of that cash that they've got from their equity friends, and they're using it now to take a bigger stake in what will be an upside in terms of cash flow and EPS from this foundry business. So it's a real sign of strength. It's not just from us. S&P came out right away yesterday and said they thought it was credit neutral. Moody's came out and said they thought it was credit positive because it was going to enable quicker deleveraging over a shorter period of time. So it's a real sign of strength. And it's one of the few names that both the equity and the bond markets really love.
And very quickly, Robert, do we give all the credit to Lip Boon Tam?
Yeah, let me tell you something. You bring in a new CEO and you make the type of changes that he's made. I think every technology firm would love to have a CEO like that. So yeah, I'll credit and kudos to him.